And wedding season is in full swing, so exciting. And if you're planning your big day, this segment is for you. After struggling through her own wedding planning experience, our first guest was determined to find a better way, turning frustration into innovation. Hannah Roze developed a system to help happy couples stay that way. And she's here with tips to keep things stress-free, stylish, and of course, on budget. That is always important. Ooh, planning can be overwhelming. So what happened that led you to your system, Plannered?
Yes, you know, the wedding planning journey can be so overwhelming, and there's this sense that it's a frustrating rite of passage that every couple needs to go through, and we experienced that ourselves in the wedding planning journey. We realized there just needs to be a better way to keep everything organized, more efficient, and to truly have an enjoyable wedding planning process to set yourself up for the rest of your partnership and your life together.
Definitely. I always see online where it's like, this is the first group project that you do with your parents.
Yes.
And you can imagine maybe how group projects used to go back in the day, but it doesn't have to be that stressful. You have a big calendar here too. You have some binders. Walk me through why this is a miss, right?
Yes, the wedding planning to-do list is really the first most overwhelming thing that you approach. You go from that high of being engaged to the stress and the logistics that you're feeling of the wedding planning journey. And that's why I created Plannered to help keep everything organized and enjoyable, and so you can bring in those members of your support system either on the professional side, the personal side, to keep everything really organized in one cohesive space.
Okay, so it's all online. It's an online platform instead of these traditional wedding binders with the tabs and
yes, that's exactly right. And the binders and the posters, they do allow you to get things out of your brain and onto the page to start planning, but what they don't do is allow you to bring in that support system in a way that doesn't feel overwhelming, so you can really enjoy this chapter of your life together.
And when did you get married?
Yes, so I got married first in 2021 when we eloped, and then again a year later in 2022. Thanks to COVID, we had to bump it out a year, but that meant we got to have the tiny, intimate elopement and then the giant blowout, so sort of the best of both worlds.
I was gonna say, I think that's the best way to do it. I'm not married yet, but you're giving me ideas. You're giving me ideas for sure with all of these flowers. I'm like, here comes the bride. I'm very into this. What is on trend? What are we seeing with the flowers?
Yes, so I'll start here. This is more sculptural, almost architectural and artful. It's allowing your florist to really kind of experiment and play a bit. It's very nature forward. It's kind of pushing the boundaries from that very traditional bouquet. All these are handheld. This here is more in that classic cascade format.
Gosh.
And it's really, you know, centuries of brides and couples using that cascade orientation. It's really allowing the beauty of the florals to show and the variety here in the different colors. We stayed in a really similar minimal color palette here across.
I was going to ask you, what are these florals too? If people like this one, I'm seeing some tulips. What are the florals?
Yes, calla lily here. We have tulips, hydrangeas, hydrangeas, tulips. We have the classic peonies here.
Perfect.
You know, this classic elegant style, the really minimalist style, while it is more simple and classic, it doesn't have to be a smaller toned down vibe and impact that it has on the broader look. And that really allows you to, doesn't mean that more is more from a design standpoint, especially when we talked about the budget element, where you want to have an impactful design, but that doesn't mean you have to push the boundaries on budget in every single category.
And florals, I just know from a lot of my friends, that's usually when the budget just skyrockets for sure. So keeping that in mind. And then here, blues and stuff. This is very cool. I haven't seen ever a centerpiece like this.
Yes, so there's lots of different guest touch points that you can accentuate with florals. It could be a side table, coffee table. It could even be, you know, in a restroom where you want to help elevate. All the different guest touch points can really help accentuate that elevated editorial feeling of your event.
Gorgeous. Okay, great ideas here. We're moving to photography, right? So what's different and what do you want to capture?
Yes, you know, photography these days are really heading into an atmospheric, documentary, emotive direction. And what's really fun about this is that couples can really allow their personalities to shine through in the imagery and moving away from that more posed, more formal, where it's not as easy to see the emotion on your face, you know, feel the hug to your loved one on that day. And what it allows you to do is really be transported back to that moment where you feel the emotions, you see the looks on people's faces, and it really allows that personality to come through, which is a wonderful shift away from that more traditional imposed.
Yeah, I'm loving the film, the candids, everything is just working. And these all look like they're straight out of a magazine, so gorgeous. What are some trends that you found that couples regret? I love this question. I'm very intrigued about your answer.
Yes, anything where couples are having to look at the prescription for a wedding and force themselves into that category, where it feels like they've almost had this template laid out for them and they need to really fill all of those different things, even if they don't really resonate with them as a couple. Things like the bouquet toss, the garter toss, things that they felt like maybe they had to do rather than truly reflective of their personality. So overall, getting aligned and understanding what are your goals for the event, what are your goals as a couple, and then really staying true to that together.
I agree. I think it's so important too. You have so much outside noise. So many people have well-meaning advice. You have all these different opinions, but if you can really just hone in what you two want as a couple, that's important. So any tips that you have right now for brides and grooms so they're not feeling overwhelmed, because exactly, you're dealing with in-laws, all these people you want to make happy, but in doing so, you might not make yourself very happy.
Yes, a first tip I would say is really get aligned with your partner right off the bat. Before you go into Pinterest, before you go into the doom scrolling of inspiration, really understand what is the vision that you're bringing together that you want to have and what does that look like. And then another tip I always like to say is decide whose opinions you want to make important and really bring into that inner circle, and decide whose opinions you might hear, you're nodding along, but you're not really going to internalize it. You're just going to let it roll off your back, and making that decision right up front before you've even gotten into the thralls of planning can really allow you to really stay in that headspace and feel like you know what you're doing and you can stay organized. But lastly, I would say having a system where you can stay organized, like Plannered, allows you to really enjoy the wedding planning process and not have to fight through that frustrating rite of passage that many couples can feel, because it really is a chapter of your life in the broader love story that you have. So set yourself up for success, stay organized, and stay joyful during that process.
Well said. I just went to my best friend's wedding and she didn't do the first dance, the father-daughter, like it just wasn't what she wanted to do. And all of us were shocked and appalled, but she should do exactly what she wants, and she did. So you go, girl. Where can people get more information about Plannered?
Yes, plannered.com, PLANNERD.com. We're helping couples all over the U.S. and here in Washington have a more enjoyable and empowering wedding planning journey, and we would love to help empower people with those tools so they can do that for themselves as well.
Well, thank you so much for being here, and who knows, you may see me soon. I'm just kidding. Well, maybe not. Okay, thank you.